So today we're going to be talking about Paige Bueckers and whether or not she should have went back to UConn or she should have came out in what would have been the single biggest night ever if Paige Bueckers had have been in that draft. Like, this was a class that when they came out of high school were the most hyped, and they left college even more hyped than they were coming out of high school. Before we get on, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We're so close to 10,000 subscribers. We're trying to hit 9.7k by the end of the day. And if you guys could help with that, that would be unbelievable. But anyway, now we're going to get on to the video. So, Paige Bueckers. If you guys don't know the whole situation when it came to Paige Bueckers, she was the first, was she the first ever freshman to win National Player of the Year in her first year at UConn. In the recruiting class with Angel Reese, Camilla Cardoso, Cameron Brink, and Caitlin Clark, she was the standout. Like, she was number one, but there was a gap. Like, it was Paige Bueckers, gap. Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, Caitlin Clark. Like, there was a gap. Caitlin Clark was seen as brilliant. She was exceptional. So was Angel Reese, so was Cameron Brink. But there was meant to have been a gap between Paige Bueckers and the rest. And she showed that in her first year at UConn. She won National Player of the Year, but surprisingly, she actually didn't win like unanimous Freshman of the Year. I think she had to share that award with Caitlin Clark, with how well Caitlin Clark played as a freshman at Iowa. But she obviously went to UConn, and after the freshman year, the team just was not as good as UConn teams of years past. This is not like the UConn team where you had Nafisa Collier coming off the bench. This is a UConn team where, like, Foot has been injured. Edwards, great player, but like their highest player pick in last year's draft was 6. Like, Nika Mule is getting no burn. It was a good UConn team. A good team, not good for a UConn team. But Paige Bueckers has gone back another year, and I don't think they're the favorites. They're really, like, even if they are the slight favorites, I just don't think they're like out and out favorites to win, because this USC team is going to be really good. Like, Kiki's gone to USC. She was arguably better than Cameron Brink, or at least as good as Cameron Brink for Stanford last year. And you add her to Juju Watkins, and like, Juju already ran UConn close. I think Juju's as good a player as Paige Bueckers. And in this year's draft, I actually think if Paige Bueckers, barring injury, she's going number one. There's no question about that. But I think had Paige Bueckers come out this year, there would be conversations about her going number one. I genuinely think there would have been, even over Caitlin Clark. Because all around game, I don't think it's a crazy argument to make to say Paige Bueckers is better than Caitlin Clark. And that's not a crazy argument when we're talking all around game. She's a better handle than Caitlin Clark. She's a better defender than Caitlin Clark. She's as good a rebounder as Caitlin Clark. She's not as good a shooter. She's a damn good shooter. She got 41% from 3 and like 53% from the field while guarding power forwards. She's easier to fit into an offense. She doesn't have to have the system ran around her. I think that if we're talking about all-around game, because all the UConn players supposedly were told they were haters for saying that they thought Paige was better than Caitlin Clark, that's not a crazy statement. I think if you ask Gino, who do we take, Paige or Caitlin Clark, he would say Paige. And I think if he was still coaching Team USA, Paige Bueckers would be going to the Olympics and Caitlin Clark wouldn't. So that is the level of player that Paige is. And I would, if NIL didn't exist, I would say she was crazy going back. I know, obviously, she can make a name for herself at UConn, and historically, you make more of a name for yourself at the college game than the WNBA game. But with this year of the WNBA, I think if Paige goes in that draft, she probably goes... I'm trying to think where she would go and what teams need her. She might go 3, to the Sky. Like, she might fall 3 to the Sky, because I think the Sparks probably would have still taken Brink at 2, just because of Brink being a unicorn in the defensive end. She probably goes 3 to the Sky because of that injury history. And then imagine if falling down a spot goes, and then at 4, the Sparks took Rakia Jackson. Yeah, they probably still take Rakia Jackson. Or maybe they just can't. To be honest, they probably just could not pass up on Cardoso. So imagine Cardoso goes 4 and they just go all big. The Sparks go the double bigs instead of Chicago. And then it kind of goes the same way where Rickea Jackson drops to Dallas, JC Sheldon falls below Chicago, Angel Reese still goes 7, Lee Edwards still goes 6, and you're looking at a Chicago Sky team with Paige Bueckers running the 1, Mabry, maybe Dana Evans, Elizabeth Williams, and Angel Reese. Like, that 5 is, like, that's a really decent 5. So if she comes out, she probably gets herself into a good situation. And if she goes out this year, a lot of people are talking about her going to the Golden State Valkyries. The Valkyries are highly unlikely to get the number 1 overall pick. The Valkyries are probably going to get the 4 pick. I think that no expansion team has ever gotten the number 1 overall pick before. So I think, did the Horn or the Bobcats get the 2 pick, but they've never given an expansion team the number 1 pick. They might do it for Paige because she is the only player that might rival the celebrity of Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark. But I would be, if I'm one of these teams, I'm still tanking under the assumption you're getting the number 1 overall pick. Because if she goes to Dallas, like if Dallas just screw up badly this season, because Dallas own Chicago, have a pick swap with Chicago. If the 2 of them are out of the playoffs, Dallas have a very good chance of getting that number 1 overall pick. And if Dallas go and get it, you add Paige Bueckers to Arike, Natasha Howard, Sabally when she comes back, Seegers when she comes back. That is a team, probably not a championship level team, but that's like a team at the level of a Mercury right now. It's a team at the level of not a fully healthy Aces, but it's a team at the level of the Storm. It's one of the good teams in the WNBA, not one of the bottom feeders. So she's in a situation now where her celebrity is still going to be okay, and there's NIL money. She'll probably make as much from NIL money this year as she would make from endorsement deals. And I actually think that in a way it's smart, because as great as Paige Bueckers was, her year out injured, it became the Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese show. Cameron Brink was doing her own thing, and then Cardoso obviously became big because she beat Caitlin Clark. And South Carolina were undefeated. But Paige Bueckers, this year in college basketball, if UConn make a run, if she has another incredible year, like she could average 24 points on 50, 40, 90 from the field, and she could come in as the number 1 overall pick, the most hyped player, while keeping her NIL money deals this year, and then she's one of the new faces of whatever brand decide to pick her up for all the endorsement deals. I think it's smart. I think it's smart instead of just being another person in the hyped draft class. Like, there's positives and negatives to it. You come in with a level of, there was a risk. You come in with a level of like fame and all the endorsement deals being part of the draft class, which she doesn't get now. But considering the fact that the draft class are actually holding their own, the WNBA, the hype isn't going to completely die down by the time she's there. And now she's going to probably be barring injury, touch wood, no injuries, but barring injury, she probably comes in head and shoulders above the rest as far as relevance is concerned next year. So I think if I was her, I don't know what I'd do, honestly. I think she wants to win with UConn as much as anything, and I'm not sure UConn are going to do that. But I think waiting a year and almost guaranteeing yourself being the number 1 overall pick, look, you can never say that's a bad idea, I guess, but the only thing is that she is risking that injury again, but at the same time, her going to the WNBA after a long college year is probably risking an injury more than playing another season in college. So will she come to regret it? Only time will tell, but right now, I think the hindsight of her potentially being on a really, really good Chicago team, maybe it doesn't look great, but at the same time, if she goes to the Sparks and the Sparks at 4 end up taking you know what? Worst case scenario, the Sparks at 4 take Cardoso, and it's still a pretty good team. But yeah, it is what it is.